So Hare Krishna, welcome everybody. So we'll start our session today by paying our obeisances to His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. So we are in our journey of chapter 13. So today we'll be starting with chapter 13. And chapter 13 falls in the last section of 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So like we had, done the first 2 parts. The first part is Karma Yoga. Middle is mainly about Bhakti Yoga. And the last 6 chapters will be more directed for Jnana Yoga. This was compared to the lid and the bottom of the box and in between a ring, which we used to discuss. So the bottom of the box is the Karma Yoga section. The top lid is the Gyan, and the middle, the diamond ring, was the Bhakti Yoga, which we just completed. Yeah? So Gyan Yoga, right? So this, like we said, it has 6 chapters. The 13th chapter is titled as Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. Followed by this 14th chapter talks about the 3 modes of material nature. So this will be mainly this last section talks about Prakriti and the 3 modes, and our we as we within this material world as jivas. Yeah. So 15th chapter is the Purushottam Yoga. This is very, that's the Hindi title of the 15th chapter. So the Yoga of the Supreme Person. 16th chapter talks about, the divine and the demonic qualities of nature. Yeah. And we'll see how Krishna clearly says that, as what are the divine qualities and what are demonic. Yeah. And then 17th chapter talks about the division of faith. And 18th is the conclusion. Yeah, it's like a summary of the whole Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter. And that's why it is the chapter with maximum number of verses in Bhagavad Gita, which is 78. The highest one which we have done so far has been 2nd chapter, which is 72 verses. So 2nd chapter also titled as the contents of Gita summarized. So it was also a nice way of, putting together, a kind of summary. And 18th is again, it will give us a whole gist. Like you can see, the from 13 to 17, the chapters are pretty much smaller in volume wise versus to what we have done so far. So comparatively, we will be quicker, just so that you have an idea to cover the last 6 chapters. So it is going to be a quick journey from here on versus to what we had so far. Yeah. So I think per chapter, maximum of 3 sessions would be there, and some chapters may even have 1 or 2 sessions itself, So, so today we'll be stepping in the 13th chapter, which is the Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. That's the title. Yeah. Now, like the title says, nature, right? It talks about mainly material nature and the enjoyer. And we will learn today as, the Purusha, right? Enjoyer is the Purusha. And we will learn today that who is the Purusha in this chapter. So now, before we jump into the 13th chapter, just some of the times, we get this question that when bhakti is the ultimate thing, why is Jnana given after bhakti? That should be kind of conclusion, right? Do bhakti. So why isn't that coming in the end? Why is Jnana sections coming in the end? After the nectarian bhakti section. And the answer to it is that in 12th chapter or throughout Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Yoga section, we saw that especially in 12th chapter, 7th verse, Krishna says he personally comes to his devotees, to rescue them, to take away them from this whole samsara, right, of birth and death cycle, right? Now, what happens is from 13 to 18, so far in Bhakti Yoga, we have learned that, bhakti is the most essential. Yeah. But to attain that most important thing, we need knowledge, right? And that knowledge is given from chapter 13 to 18. It gives us the knowledge which helps us throughout Bhakti Yoga section. We learned, we should be detached from the material world, and attached to Krishna, right? And attachment to Krishna automatically causes detachment to material nature, right? Now, that is what we learned, and that is the way we can go back to God. Now, how to get detached from that material? What is, to understand that how are we entangled in this material nature? That knowledge is needed for us so that, we can progress in our path of devotional service. And that's why the Gyan section comes in here. Okay. Now, and that's what we mentioned here, in chapter 13 to 18, fulfills this promise by supplying philosophical knowledge required to remove oneself from material engagement. Yeah. Because philosophy is needed, philosophy and religion goes hand in hand. We did this, previously, that, just for doing, religion without philosophical understanding is nothing but sentimentalism. We don't want to do devotion because of our sentiments. No. Both religion and philosophy are important. They go hand in hand. Yeah. And it is like we compared it to the science experiment, right? Theory, yes, is necessary along with practical, right? So theory is the philosophy and religion is the practical application of it. Okay. So both are needed, understanding and then applying it practically, right? Both are needed for us to progress, to go to that bhakti yoga, progression, right? So if jnana is utilized to attain devotion, it becomes part of bhakti. Right? Without the touch of bhakti, both karma and jnana are useless. Just being, we discussed this before, just by knowing several verses of scriptures, or just by having that philosophical strong understanding, it is not enough, unless you don't have the component of love and devotion to Krishna, you will not go back. Okay. So that's why bhakti is kept in between, because that is essential for both karma, yoga part and jnana, both, so that both, it remains in contact with both of these sections. Okay. So with that, we step into the 13th chapter. Now, today, Krishna willing will capture, will try to complete the first 3 subcategory sections here, which are highlighted in orange. Arjuna 6 questions. So the chapter starts with, again, Arjuna asking questions. Yeah. And then from shloka 2 to 7, Krishna starts answering those. From shloka 8 to 12, talks about, again, process of acquiring knowledge. Knowledge is essential. What is the process? And then 13 to 19 talks about, yes, we are acquiring knowledge, but what is the object of knowledge? That is the supreme. It talks about the object of knowledge. And 20 to 26 talks about Prakriti, Purusha, and their union. And last is Gyan Chaksha. One who understands this, what is the vision of such a person? Okay. So, yes, these terminologies will make more sense as we get started today, when it comes to Prakriti, Purusha, Geyam, Jnanam, all the Kshetrajna will go there. And that's what Arjuna does first. The first shloka is Arjuna asking those questions. Yeah. Now, the first shloka is Arjuna uvacha prakritim purusham chaiva kshetram kshetrakyam evacha etat veditam chami jnanam geyam cha keshava. Okay, you will see all these words coming here, right? And second shloka itself, Krishna starts answering. Shri Bhagavan uvacha idam shariram kanteya kshetram iti abhidhiyate etadyo vettitam prahu kshetrajna iti tadvidaha. So Arjuna said, "Oh my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, Purusha, and the field and the knower of the field, and the knowledge and object of knowledge. Okay, there are 6 things Arjuna is asking here. And next slide, we have put them all in one table so that it's easy for you. Yeah. And then, Krishna replies, that this body. So here, see, Prakriti is material nature. It is easy for us. We have heard this term. Purusha is the enjoyer. Okay. And we will see later today how Purusha can refer to an individual soul, also the supreme soul. Because Purusha, the enjoyer, we are also enjoy. We are trying to enjoy. That's why we are in this material world, because we wanted to enjoy independent of Krishna, right? And Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. We learned it in 5.29, right? Bhoktaram Yagnitapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, right? He's so Krishna starts then, so Prakriti, Purusha, the field, Kshetra. Now the word itself, Kshetra, what do we know about it? It's a specific field, right? So Kshetra, what is Kshetram, he's asking. That is, what is the field? Kshetragnya. Kshetragnya is someone who knows about that field. So that is knower of the field, okay? Then Jnanam. Jnanam is the straightforward understanding, knowledge. And Geyam, okay? Geyam is nothing but the object of knowledge. Who is the object of knowledge we are working towards, okay? So Krishna replies in the second shloka that this body, yeah, our material body is the kshetra. It is the field, because it is our field of activities. Anything we do is within this, right? And the one who knows about this body is called a kshetragya, which is the knower of the field. So body is the kshetra, and one who knows this body is called kshetragya. Okay. Now this table should help a bit, hopefully. Question number 1 is Prakriti, material nature. Question 2 is Purusha. Purusha is the enjoyer. Yeah. For question 3 is Kshetram. Kshetram is the field in which one acts in this material world. That is our body. We act within this body in this material. Kshetragnya is the person who knows about that body. Yeah. About the knower of the field. Yeah. Jnanam is knowledge and the process, both knowledge and the process of knowledge. And Geyam is the object of knowledge. Okay. So these are, see, Krishna is explaining here Kshetram, right, within which we perform all our activities. Now, we have to understand that there are around 84 lakh species, we know, right? And each species have their limitations, their own limitations. For example, a bird, it can fly, right? But can we fly? No, right? That's our limitation of our body, right? So we get our body based on, we learned this in Bhakti Yoga section, especially chapter 8, right? We compared it that when we go for shopping, right? And we like something. So we buy something based on 2 facts. What are those 2 facts? Or let me ask also that we get our body, whatever kind of body we get, it is based on what?
Our desire.
I heard desire. Yes, that's correct. And the second thing is?
Like our karma, which should sanction.
Yes, right. Thank you. Was that Reshma Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So yes, we get our body based on 2 things: our desire to buy the dress and our budget, our karma, what we have, right? So based on our desire for a particular sense gratification, we get a particular body. And when we act within that body and perform the activities in that life, right? So the body is the kshetra, right? See, when we try to enjoy, right? What are we doing within this body? Even though the body is matter, we are trying to enjoy it, But when we understand that we are actually not the enjoyer, Krishna is the enjoyer, then we will be able to get rid of these different bodies which we are taking, right? So the person who lives within this kshetra is kshetrajna. Okay. Now, further to that, then let me maybe it's like, kshetra and kshetrajna. You can compare also like kshetra is like the clothes we wear, yeah, the field, yeah, and kshetrajna is us, yeah. So we are jiva within, right? So second chapter we had that verse, Vashamsi jirnani yatha vihaya. So we change our body like clothes every day. Yeah. So we are also knower of this body. We are also kshetrajna. Yeah. But our understanding is very minimal. Like we understand that if my body is feeling hot right now in this room, I understand. If my body feels cold, I understand, right? If I'm diseased with something, if I'm suffering with something, I understand. So we are also kshetrajna. We are knower of this body. Yeah. But later we'll see in next verse how Krishna says, that yes, we are knower, but Krishna is also the knower. And how? We will see it. Yeah. So the third verse, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, are you around?
Yeah, yes, Mataji.
Can you read this verse for us?
Yes, Mataji. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetrajnayor jnanam yatad jnanam matam mama. Ocean of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, see, Krishna is saying, yes, individual soul is a kshetrajna. You are knower of your God. But there is a limitation. We as kshetrajna know only our God. But Krishna is a supreme knower because he knows about all the bodies. It's just not about me. Say you are sitting in front of me and you're feeling something. I wouldn't know that. But Krishna knows everything because he is within us as souls, right? He's the knower of all the bodies. That's what he's saying. I am also knower, but in all bodies, just not in one body, right? So he's the supreme knower. Right? And then what he's saying is now he is also defining. So far we defined what is kshetra, that is field of activity, kshetrajna, it is knower. And the knower, kshetrajna, can be two, individual soul and Krishna, both, right? Now Krishna is defining in this shloka what is jnanam, what is knowledge. That to understand this body and its knower is called as knowledge. What is knowledge? To understand kshetra and kshetrajna. That is knowledge. That's what Krishna is saying. Yeah. So Krishna is highlighting here, saying the concept of super soul, right? Who always accompanies every living entity. May it be as tiny as a microorganism to as top as Brahma, right? So Krishna is highlighting in this shloka that he is also the knower in all bodies. That means he is situated as a super soul. He accompanies every living entity. And that's the difference between us and him. We are only within this body, but he is the super knower. Yeah, he knows all. Yeah. So, so with that we will, and he also explains jnanam here. That is understanding the relationship between knower, and the field of activities. Yeah, and the knower of the field activities. Understanding these two, if one person understands this, then he is in knowledge. Yeah? So far we have understood two knowers of the field, and what is the field, which is kshetra, and one who knows both of these is in knowledge, and that is jnana. Okay? So to make it easy, the way we remember it is two Ks, that is kshetra and kshetrajna, two J's, that is Jnanam, Gayam, and two P's, Prakriti and Purusha. These are the 6 questions which Arjuna is asking. 2 K's, 2 P's, and 2 J's. Yeah. Okay. So now just moving further. So this actually slide just helps us to understand a bit further, and I'll let you all go through this when we post this in the drive. But this is basically what we have already spoken, that answer to the second question, which Arjuna asked Krishna, Kshetrajna. What is Kshetrajna? Who is the knower of the field? Then Krishna answers, that both soul and super soul are the knower. Yeah. And then he also asked 5th question, what is Jnana? And Krishna answered, yeah, to understand the body and its knower. Knower is both soul and super soul. That person is in knowledge. Yeah. And then we see here that how knowledge, knowledge is nothing but understanding the field of activities and the knower of the field, right? And then this is Kshetra and Kshetrajna, and Kshetrajnas are super soul and the individual soul. Yeah, those are both Kshetrajna. Yeah, and then how Krishna is the knower, because he is situated in us as a super soul. Yeah, and there are 2 different. We also underwent people who are Mayavadis, right? Who think in oneness, that we are the same. Aham Brahmasmi. We went through this concept before. So that's why Prabhupada in the purport, has clearly mentioned that the word cha in this shloka indicates the total number of bodies. It indicates that Krishna is present as super soul in every body. Okay, and we should not misunderstand that Krishna and us is the same. No, there are 2 different things, soul and super soul. It cannot be the same. Yeah. It's like, in night when it is dark, we always give this analogy that a rope is fallen near the, in the garden or something, and we misinterpret as a snake. No, these 2 are different things. Even though it may sometimes perceive like that, you may perceive like that, but that's not the reality. Yeah. So we have to differentiate that. And in the right hand side, we have to understand that, there are 3 Brahman conceptions, like we studied before. In Sanskrit, like in English, the same word will have different meanings. Yeah, it's, I think, called as homographs in English, where, the spelling is the same, the pronunciation is the same, but the meaning is different. Yeah, same thing with Sanskrit language, So Brahman, this term, we have used it in different context. It is used in different context in different places. And we have to be very clear when we go through. So for example, first thing we learned about Brahman was that the 3 aspects of absolute truth, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Yeah, Brahman is the effulgence, the Brahmajyoti. Right? That is the one Brahman. Second thing is, even a living entity, individual soul, is called as Brahman. Okay, we have to know that. And the person, because the Brahman is at the end of the day aspect of Krishna itself. So the controller of both, the soul, is called as Brahman also. Okay, so Jiva is also called as Brahman, and the controller of Jiva and Prakriti is also called as Brahman, which is the supreme, basically. Okay, so we have to understand these 3 different conceptions of Brahman, understanding of Brahman. Okay, so with that, we'll move to the next shloka. Before we get there, we have just again highlighted the difference between soul and super soul. So soul, it is Jivatma, it is individual living entity. Super soul is Paramatma. Yeah, and similarly, when we talk about Brahman, we use several times for Krishna, we use Parabrahma, like Atma, Paramatma, right? But at places also you will see just that Brahman word used. So we should understand, we should use that correct context, whether it is referring to the supreme or individual soul. Yeah, Jiva. And next is, soul is very small, infinitesimally small. Yeah. So the size of the soul, we saw in one of the, as per our scriptures, it is at the tip of her hair, 1/10,000 size of the tip of the hair. That is the size of the soul. So tiny. Yeah. So it is not, yeah, not possible. And super soul is infinite. Yeah. Soul is individual knower, and super soul is the super knower. Yeah, he knows everything. Soul is the secondary proprietor of our body, whereas super soul is the primary proprietor, controller, owner, everything. Yeah, it's like we compare the soul and super soul like a king. An example that a king has given, in his kingdom he has many farms, and he has distributed the farms to different farmers. Now, each farmer might have a very good understanding about his own farm, but the farmer may not know about the other farms. But the king will have the good understanding of all the farms. Okay, so that's the difference between a jiva and a super soul. Okay, now soul is fallible, and super soul is infallible. Because of this only we have come down to material world. And we are the servitor, he is the master. This is one thing, in material world, when we use these terms, servant and master, it looks like, no, I cannot be a servant. The term servant itself in English, we have made it such, in our mindset that when we hear, that we are the servant of the servant of the servant of servant of Krishna, it's very difficult for our false ego to accept that term, right? So we have to understand, servant might be everything in this material world is opposite. It's a reflection of spiritual world. Servant might be a very downgraded thing here, but it's the most top-rated thing above. And we will see in 15th chapter how spiritual world and material world is compared to a banyan tree. And material world is the perverted reflection of the spiritual. So everything here which is not important or not top on the list, it is the top there. So we should be very, humbly accepting that. And it is a great, it's not easy to get that position of being a servant of Krishna as well. We have to put that efforts, right? That's why we are all doing this sadhana, so that one day we become, that pure servant of Krishna. Okay, so and soul are innumerable in number, and super soul we know. Yeah, so though super soul is in heart of every living entity, within every atom, still there is only one super soul. It's like sunshine, we say, right? When the rays are, that doesn't mean that the sun has differentiated itself. No, there is no effect on the sun. The sun is just one. Yeah. Okay, so now we come to the fourth shloka. So maybe Jyoti Mataji, can you read this?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Tatta kshetra yacha yakvacha yad vikari yatascha yata sa cha yo yatta prabhavascha tatsamasen me ridu. Now, please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activity is, and what his influences are. Bhagavad Gita 13.4. 6 topics about Kshetra and Kshetrajana, and Krishna explains in first, composition of body, Yataka 13.6. Second, qualities of body, Yadarka 13.7. Third, changes that the body undergoes, Yad Vikari 13.720. Fourth is origin of body, Yata 13.6, 21, 22, 30. Fifth, identity Swarupa of the knower of the body, Yet 13.1, 14, 18, 23. 6 is power of the knowers of the body, Yet Bhava, 13.14-18 verses. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you. So, see, this chapter is actually, you must have already started getting the feeling it's very technical. You know, coming from the nectarian verses of Bhakti Yoga, and this, it's like a turn in a way. You know, it's a different flavor altogether. But, you know, that's the thing. We need to understand how this material nature works, you know, and how we are so tiny, you know, versus to what Krishna's state is. You know, we need to understand that, and for that, this understanding is necessary. Yeah. So in this shloka, Krishna says, now please hear my brief description of this field of activity, that is Kshetra, and how it is constituted. See, this body, what are the constitutions, what changes it undergoes, you know, and when it is produced, you know, and what will be the activities of the knower of the body, which are us, jivas, and what his influences are. And the same thing is put in the table. So these are again the things which Krishna is expanding further. That's why he's again saying Shrunu. Shrunu means hear, right? He's telling Arjuna, here, now I'm going to explain you further in detail, you know, about all these technical pieces. Yeah. So, and we will be covering these in different, you know, shlokas in 13th chapter, and the shlokas we have mentioned there. Yeah. All these pieces. Yeah. So today we'll be covering until the verse 12, and composition of body, which is what are the concepts, how is the body composed? You know, we learned it in 9th chapter and 7th chapter. Yeah, that sorry, 7th, yeah, that earth, water, fire, air, ether, the gross and the subtle. You know, what does the body compose of? Now we will go in much more detail as what exactly it consists. It consists of several elements together. Yeah, and the qualities of body will undergo that also. Yeah, and changes like birth, death, old age, disease. You know, all these are the changes our body undergoes. Right. So Krishna is going to explain that as now further in 5th shloka, that knowledge of the field of activities and the knower of the activities. So, knowledge about the field of activities, Kshetra, and the knower, Kshetrajna, is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. Yeah, it is specially present in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. See now, so far in Bhakti Yoga section, so far in Bhagavad Gita, actually, Krishna has established himself that he is the Supreme Personality of God. His abode is the supreme abode, right? So even after stating that, you know, he's still giving reference. Actually, he being the supreme, he's saying itself should be there. There is no need of any references. But Krishna is giving reference here that it is described by various sages in Vedic. He's referring to Vedic scriptures, and specifically is highlighting Vedanta Sutra. You know, he has taken the position of a guru for Arjuna and for us, right? Who always, you know, a guru is someone who will always give references to the scriptures. It cannot be in nowadays in modern times, guru, we see, you know, they just come up with something of their own. If you ask them references from our scriptures, it's very difficult to get, you know. So Krishna himself is setting that example for us. You know, he's referencing to the scriptures, even though he has already established that he's the, you know, he's teaching us that this should be the path, you know, way we should approach. Yeah, we should have. Okay, so and then yes, this is the 6th and the 7th verse where so the 6th and 7th verse we mentioned in the table that it will explain about the components of the body. Okay, what does the body constitute? So like I said, it is 5 great elements. Krishna is saying 5 great elements: false ego, intelligence, and unmanifested, the 10 senses and the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms and conditions. All these are considered in summary to the field of activity and its interactions. Okay, so to make it easy to follow, this is a chart. Overall, there are 24 elements this body is constituted. Okay, let's go turn by turn. So first is the 5 great elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Yeah. The second is, see, the sense objects, right? The form, sound, smell, taste, touch, all these are, the object, sense objects. And then comes the senses. Yeah. The senses can be two kinds, Gyanendriya and Karmendriya. Gyanendriya is knowledge acquiring senses. Like eyes. You get a knowledge, you try to understand something by looking, right? Eyes, ears, these are knowledge acquiring. These are the medium through which you understand. You gain the knowledge. Eyes, ear, nose, tongue, skin. Yeah. And then working senses means our hands, leg, voice, anus, and genitals. Okay. So 5 great elements, then sense objects, 5 karmendriyas, 5 gyanendriyas. So this gives us 20. And then mind. Yeah. Intelligence, false ego. These are the subtle, right? 5 gross and 3 subtle. And then pradhana. The unmanifested, which Krishna mentions, is nothing but pradhana. And we will learn this again in detail in Bhagavatam 3rd canto. See, we learned like Mahavishnu is the one through his pores all the universes come out, right? When the universes come out, they are in form of pradhana. Because the modes of material nature are inactive. The modes are inactive in that form. It is not manifested. So that's why it is called as unmanifested. Okay, that is also an element. Yeah. So now, then in the verse, after he explains these 24 elements, Krishna mentions the interactions. Right now, between all these components, the interactions of these, results into desire or hatred, happiness or distress. Okay, these are the results. Yeah, and then the different transformations, like we mentioned. Birth, each body undergoes birth, growth, stays for the same for some time, produces offspring, dwindles, and then death. These are the transformations of body. Right? We undergo these changes every body. Yeah. So verse 6 actually explains the field of activities components, which is the top. Yeah. And verse 7 describes the transformation and interactions of the field of activity. When these activities undergo interactions, then all these transformations happen and these all results happen. Okay. So overall, the central theme of this verse, what we need to understand is that the field or the body is non-permanent. It's a material matter. Yeah. And the jiva, which is the kshetrajna or the knower of the field, is different from the field. This is whole talking about the field. Okay. So, and then we will move to the third section now, which is, jnana, yeah, the process. So after Krishna tells us about, one who knows, what did he define jnana as before? That one who knows the field and the knower of the field. That is one who knows the kshetra and kshetrajna. That person is in knowledge, right? Now, Krishna in this section states, one who is in perfect knowledge, he has these 20 elements of knowledge. Okay? We need to work towards, as sadhana bhaktiyas, we need to work towards developing these qualities. Krishna is saying these are the qualities, that helps one to come to a platform of knowing soul and super soul position. Because see, jnana is knowing soul and super soul, right? And the body. So for us to come to a platform of knowing, to understand at the level of soul and super soul, to understand the level of soul, and understand the super soul position, then we need to develop these qualities. Okay. And in Bhagavad Gita, you'd see that these verses are actually the longest set of verses in Bhagavad Gita, verse 8 to 12, because they are all taken together, these 5 verses, So these are the longest ones. So far we have seen 2 or 3 together, but this is the longest set we have, okay? Because it talks about, all the qualities of a devotee, yeah? So last session also, we underwent certain qualities of a devotee, right? We took the great example of Maharaj Ambarish, Pratap Ruddra, we did and the qualities like non-enviousness, faith, steadiness, self-satisfied, self-control. We underwent many qualities of devotees, right? So similarly here from verse 18 to 12, these are the 20 elements of knowledge, for us to come to that class. Yeah. So the first is amanitva, humility, humble. I think humility, Prabhupada has said, it is the most starting quality in Krishna consciousness. It is our carrier for bhakti. It is very important. And that's what, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, right, in Shishtashtakam, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Savishna, Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sada. We have to learn to be as humble as a blade of grass, right? So we have to have that humble approach, because it is something which will really help us to keep, that false ego under that. Because the reason why we can't be humble is because we think we are very great, right? That's the thought process we have. So humility is one of the key things, which brings us down. And remember, our target is to become servant of Krishna. So humility is the key, right? And then pridelessness, yes, because see, pride, we say that, right? Pride comes before fall, right? It is something which comes to us very naturally, very easily. If we achieve even a small target at home, be it at work, anywhere, we start feeling proud, right? So it's very easily coming thing for us. So, and in today's world, people, even though they don't do the thing, but still they would love to be pride. They are pride for nothing. You would see people around as well, right? So pridelessness is the key, because pride will make you fall. That is not, that is one of the quality which dumb, that is called, pride is called as dumb. So now Krishna is saying adambitam. Yeah, adambitam, right? So pridelessness. Yeah, not to be always hankering to get that fame, right? If whatever comes on the way, we have to take it. Whatever doesn't, we are not attached to. That's what we need. Okay. Ahimsa, non-violence. Yeah. Non-violence is not about physical violence only. Prabhupada says that not putting others into distress, not hurting others. It is also a non-violence. Yeah. So, and violence should be there. There was one, I think I've given this example before, where, Prabhupada was in, there were other kind of followers, and Prabhupada met the guru of those line of followers. And when Prabhupada asked them, what do you think about non-violence? That particular group, they believed in non-violence. So Prabhupada then asks the guru of that group that, what if, say, you're saying it should be always non-violence. What if somebody tomorrow comes and troubles your women follower or disciple? What would you do? Will you still stick to non-violence? And the person was, like, yes, because they had to follow their rule, right? Their principle. So then that made the women disciples of that particular group really, like eye-opening. That, what's the point? So Prabhupada always said, violence, yes, violence is right if it is used at the right point. So we have to be very careful when it comes to non-violence. It's not like just closing your eyes and sitting and just taking what comes. If we are seeing something, someone degrading Krishna or somebody talking something about, our Supreme Lord, then that violence should come. Violence should be there, but it should be rightly placed. That's the key. Yeah. Now, next quality is tolerance. Tolerance, we learned a shloka especially on this in second chapter. It was Matrisparshastu Kanteyo Shitoshna Sahadukhasaha. So it clearly said that, the happiness and distress comes like summer and winter season. We have to learn to be tolerant. Again, Tolerance comes when we start thinking at the level of soul. Then no insult will hit us. We have to learn that art, right? So also on ahimsa, non-violence, Prabhupada said that in purport, he has mentioned that real ahimsa, real non-violence is actually propagating of Krishna consciousness. How? Because people who are not in Krishna consciousness, they will go to hell. We know, they will undergo that. So they will undergo that. So that's why if even after knowing, if we are not trying to save people by propagating Krishna consciousness, that is a big violence against them. So the real non-violence is propagating Krishna consciousness. Very beautifully said by him in the book. Yeah. And then simplicity. Yes, you will see devotees are very simple living. They exactly follow what we say in English: simple living, high thinking. They exactly follow that. Yeah, they're very straightforward. They will not, they will not cover up and talk to you, diplomatically. No, because they will just say on your face what they think is wrong or what they think is right. They are not diplomatic at all. And yes, the sixth one is very important: serving a bona fide guru and without motivation. Very important. Yeah. So, and that's what we see as a standard example of Prabhupada, right? He wanted to follow the instructions of his spiritual master. And even in that age, he stepped out, to that fully unknown environment, right? Facing all those difficulties. So, and then cleanliness. So cleanliness does not just refer to outwardly, it is also inwardly, our mind. And we know how does the mind get cleaned up? By chanting, right? We have so many, I think several times, when we hear, and also in Japa talk, we heard that Krishna is actually so merciful that when we chant, we say that we get purified. What does that mean? When we chant, Krishna, even being the Supreme Lord, he's coming and he's doing the cleaner's job in our heart. Right? He's doing our cleaning job of our heart. So chanting cleans, purifies us. Yeah. And also second thing which purifies us, is prasadam. Right? Yeah. Because the most difficult sense to control is the tongue. Very difficult. So prasadam is the thing which can keep you internally clean. And when you chant and when you eat prasadam, you will see your mind does not agitate that much. Because it's getting cleaned up. It's in the process. Then is sthairya, that is steadiness, right? Determination. We learned from the squirrel story, right? Determination is the key. Many times we have discussed this story. Self-control, right? Self-control is what? Rejecting unfavorable things and accepting favorable. We learned that in Sharanagati, right? That Anukulasya sankalpa, pratikulasya varjan, right? So whatever is anukul for our devotional life, we have to accept those. Whatever is pratikul for our devotional, we should varjana, we should reject. Yeah, that will help. Yeah, and then the 10th quality which he mentions is renunciation of objects of sense gratification. Renunciation, how can renunciation happen? By controlling our senses. And like I said, tongue, right? Is the toughest one, and we can control it by chanting and prasadam. Yeah? Then no false ego. False ego is what? When it comes when we are identifying ourselves with this body. See, why is it called false ego? False ego it is called because we are in this material world. The ego we have, it's false because we are identifying ourselves with the body. We also have a real ego, which is back in the spiritual world. Right? That real ego is what? I am the servant of Krishna. We don't relate ourselves with the body. Relating with the body is false. And that's why it is false ego. Yeah? Then 12th is Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. Yeah. So perception of evil, birth, death, old age, and disease. That gave rise to suffering. Yeah. So they understand it, that these are, how the natural process of the body. And then detachment. See, it's not that detachment is in the purport, Prabhupada has mentioned very nicely. Detachment, so Prabhupada states that as for detachment from wife, children, or family members or home, it is not meant that one should not have feelings for this. No, they are natural objects given to us by Krishna, for affection. Yeah. But when they are not favoring our, the development in devotion life, then yes, we should take care, but we should not be hyper attached. Yeah, we should not be attached to them. Yeah? We should know, right? So, and see, detachment, yes, we should constantly try, but it naturally occurs for devotees. We are not focusing on detaching from material things. Our focus should be to get attached to Krishna. Then this happens like a side effect. Like when you take a medicine, if you're taking a painkiller, say your head is paining, yeah, it naturally, when you take it, it also works on your rest part of the body, right? So same way, when our focus should be to get attached to Krishna, then default these are the side things which will happen naturally. The attachment to material things, yeah. Then freedom from entanglement, children, home, and rest. That's what I explained. Not getting very attached to them. Yeah. Even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events. Yeah. This is like self-control, right? Equipoised. We have learned this. So wait. Now 16. Yes. So out of these, in the last slide, next slide, we will see. Out of these 20 elements, 16th element is specially for Bhakti Yoga. Okay, that is constant and unalloyed devotion to me with undeviating attention. We have seen this before. Yeah, constant attention, right? And so that is, the special quality for Bhakti Yogas. Okay, and then 17th quality is secluded living. So secluded living does not mean that living alone, and like going into the forest or leaving home and going somewhere and living alone, not associating with anybody. No, secluded living means living with, to try not to live in association with materialistic people, to seclude yourself from the materialistic association. That's what secluded living means. Okay, so we have so many materialistic people around us at work, at family, friends. Yeah, so we should try not to have that kind of more association. Yes, we have to do what we have to do as a basic thing, but we should not be heavily involved, right? Rather, we say that devotees, when they have to go to such events, right? We should not be, we should not go there to get association, but devotees rather are there to give association, right? That's the difference. Okay. So detachment from the general mass of people, right? That's what we discussed as well. Accepting the importance of self-realization. Now, because 16th is the key for Bhakti Yoga, 19th and 20th are for Jnana Yogas. And Jnana Yoga's main thing is self-realization by philosophical search of the absolute, right? That we have learned before. That is a part of Jnana Yoga. Yeah. Now with that, in the end, Krishna says, all these are declared to be knowledge. And beside this, whatever there may be is ignorance. That's what he said. Okay. So this is what I highlighted. All 18 factors of the 20 factors are common between the Jnanis and the devotees. 16th item is particularly for Bhaktas, and 19th and 20 are specially for Jnanis. Okay. So with that, we will conclude today's session. And maybe we will